Brothers and sisters, there was a time when the skies were quiet, and the idea of man flying through them was mocked. There was a time when the notion of light without fire was foolishness. There was a time when freedom was a dream whispered behind closed doors. For what was once a dream became a reality. I want to tell you today, if you have a dream burning inside your chest, if there's a whisper in your soul that says there's more, then you are standing on holy ground. Because every reality you see around you, every building, every book, every breakthrough began as a dream in the heart of someone who refused to let go. Dreams are the language of destiny. But hear me, a dream without action is only a wish, and a wish without faith is dust in the wind. There comes a time when you must rise from the comfort of imagination and walk into the challenge of transformation. When your knees shake and your path looks unclear, that is not the end, that is the beginning. Because the journey from dream to reality is not walked alone. There is a greater power, a higher calling, a divine purpose guiding your steps. You were not born to drift. You were not made to shrink. You were called to build, to rise, to believe. Your dream is not too small. Your past is not too broken. And your future, your real future, is waiting for you to say yes to discipline. Yes to courage. Yes to the fire inside that says keep going. So to every heart listening, don't bury your dream. Don't silence it with fear. Don't trade it for comfort. Take that vision. Take that whisper. Take that wild, holy dream and chase it with everything you've got. Because one day, and that day may be sooner than you think, you'll stand in the middle of it, not dreaming it, not hoping for it, but living it. This is how a dream becomes reality, and it starts with you. Every great reality begins as an unseen dream, a whisper in the stillness when no one is watching and no one is listening, when the world is too loud to notice and too busy to care, but deep in the silence of your spirit there is a spark that refuses to die. A voice that speaks in the darkness and says there is more to your life than what your eyes can see, and your hands can touch, and your past can prove, because the future has not yet spoken its full truth. And what is invisible now will one day be undeniable, if only you hold on. It begins in the hush of a restless night, when you close your eyes and dare to believe there is something inside you that was not placed there by accident. Something sacred, something wild, something heaven-breathed, and even though the world has never seen it, even though your friends may not understand it, even though your fear screams louder than your faith, the dream still pulses. It still burns, it still calls you by name and pulls you forward into places you've never walked before. And you walk not because the road is smooth, but because the dream is louder than the obstacles, because there's a hunger in your soul that comfort can't satisfy, because there's a vision that keeps you awake at night, and a fire that won't let you sit still. And you just know that you were made for something that can't be bought or borrowed or handed to you. It has to be built, it has to be believed, it has to be birthed from the place inside you where doubt tried to dig graves, but you planted seeds instead. And as you rise, the dream begins to rise with you, not as a flash of glory or a sudden success, but as a daily decision to wake up and believe again, to show up even when no one claps, to take one step when all you want to do is sit down. And somewhere between the sacrifice and the sweat, between the silence and the stretch, something begins to shift, something begins to move, something begins to live. In the dream, that unseen dream starts to breathe in real time, in real space, in real battles where you bleed and break and still believe. In real days when it would be easier to quit, but you don't. In real moments when the door slams shut and you knock again anyway. Because reality doesn't come to those who wish, it comes to those who war for it, who work for it, who wait for it, faith that defies the delay. And though no one may see the cost, and no one may feel the weight, and no one may understand the depth of what you carry it still, because you know that what is planted in the soil of vision will one day bloom in the garden of legacy. And even if the world forgets your name, the dream you built will stand, will shine, will speak when you are long gone, because it wasn't just about you. It was about what you made possible for those who come after you. So keep building what you cannot yet see. Keep speaking what has not yet come to pass. Keep believing when it makes no sense to believe, because reality is not born in applause or approval, but in obedience to the unseen. And the unseen is not empty. It is eternal. It is the birthplace of every breakthrough, every miracle, every movement that ever mattered. And your dream is no exception, because every great reality begins as an unseen dream, is waiting for someone like you to say, I may not see it yet, but I will not stop until I do. Faith bridges the gap between what is and what can be, not because the road is easy or the outcome is obvious, but because somewhere deep inside you, beyond logic and louder than fear, there is a quiet conviction that dares to believe the invisible is more real than the visible. That dares to trust what hasn't happened yet more than what has already come to pass. That dares to step even when the ground looks like air and the storm clouds are gathering, and the voices around you say it's foolish, reckless, naive. And yet you walk not because you see, but because you believe. It is faith that makes a man look at a valley and still speak of mountains. Faith that makes a woman stare at the ashes of her past and still reach for the beauty of tomorrow. Faith that sees chains and still dreams of freedom. That sees failure and still declares victory. That sees the grave and still whispers resurrection. Because faith is not about what you hold in your hands. It's about what you hold in your heart when your hands are empty. And your back is against the wall and your knees are bruised from praying, but you rise anyway. You rise not because you're strong, but because faith tells you there is strength you cannot see. Because it tells you you're not alone even when no one stands beside you. Because it tells you this pain has a purpose. This storm has a clearing. This desert has a well waiting for you if you'll just keep walking. And so you walk one trembling step at a time into the unknown, into the impossible, into the place where miracles are born not through sight but through surrender. And in that surrender, something shifts, something moves, something eternal begins to unfold, not in lightning flashes or burning bushes, but in small obediences and daily faithfulness. In doors that shouldn't open but do, in peace that shouldn't come but does. In dreams that had every reason to die but didn't, because faith doesn't need proof to press forward. It needs purpose, it needs vision, it needs just enough light for the next step. And sometimes faith looks like dancing while the rain still falls, and sometimes it looks like building when the blueprint makes no sense, and sometimes it looks like forgiving when the wound is still fresh, and sometimes it looks like staying when everything in you wants to run. But whatever it looks like, it moves you, stretches you, refines you, because faith doesn't leave you where it found you, it pulls you higher, deeper, further than you ever planned to go. And though the distance between where you are and where you're going may feel like a canyon carved by years of waiting and walls of doubt, faith lays a path where no path existed. Faith stretches its hands across that canyon and says, come anyway, believe anyway, build anyway. And what was once unreachable becomes undeniable. What was once a dream becomes a destiny. What was once a gap becomes a testimony. Because it is not your strength that builds the bridge, it is your faith, not your certainty, that brings the promise. But your persistence, not your perfection, that draws the miracle, but your trust. And when all is said and done, when the dust settles and the story is told, they will not say you made it because it was easy. They will say you made it because you believed when nothing made sense. Faith bridges the gap between what is and what can be. And when you choose to believe in the middle, in the messy, in the mystery, that's when heaven leans in. That's when the gap begins to close, and that's when you discover what you were chasing has been chasing you all along. The journey from dream to reality is paved with perseverance, purpose, and divine timing. Not because the path is straight or simple, but because the dream, though beautiful, demands more of you than you ever expected to get. Because it isn't just about reaching a destination. It's about becoming the kind of person who can carry the weight of that dream once you arrive. And the road to that place is often lonely and long, filled with detours you didn't plan for and delays that make you question whether the vision was ever real in the first place. And still, you keep moving, not because the circumstances are perfect, but because something in your soul refuses to sit still. Something in your spirit still believes there's more ahead than what you've left behind. And even when your knees buckle and your heart breaks and your prayers feel like they're hitting the ceiling, you get up again, because perseverance isn't flashy or loud. It's the quiet, gritty decision to take one more step when quitting would be easier, and everyone would understand if you did. But you don't quit, because there's purpose in the pressure, and even when you can't explain it, you sense it, that all of it is shaping you, stretching you, chiseling away what cannot carry the promise. And though you can't see it yet, the pain has meaning, the waiting has weight. The silence is not abandonment, but preparation. And every setback is really a setup for something you can't yet imagine, but heaven already planned. And the journey breaks you in places you didn't know could crack, teaches you things you didn't want to learn, humbles you until there's nothing left to lean on but grace. And it's in that low place, that quiet place, that secret place where no one is clapping and no one is posting and no one is watching. That purpose begins to take root. And you realize the dream was never just about you, it was about the lives it would touch through. And still, the timing won't always make sense, because divine timing isn't your timing, and the delay is not denial. The waiting is not wasting. The doors that closed did not curse you. They protected you, and every and not yet from heaven is pregnant with a just wait. Because when the time is right, when your heart is ready, when the stage is set, what felt like a lifetime of wandering will suddenly make sense in a moment of breakthrough. And though the world around you measures success and speed, you begin to understand that real dreams take time, that deep roots take time to grow before fruit can be seen. And if you force the process, you forfeit the power, but if you trust the time, you will walk into something that couldn't have been built overnight. Something that will last, something that will outlive you, something that will speak long after you're gone. So you keep walking with blistered feet and steady heart, with questions you can't answer and hope that won't die. Because even when you don't know where you're going, you know who is leading. And that's enough, and you press forward. Not because the dream is easy, but because it's holy. And something in you knows that the same hand that gave the vision will bring it to pass if you just don't give up. Because the journey from dream to reality is paved with perseverance, purpose, and divine timing. And though the road may be rough and the night may be long, if you stay the course, you won't just reach the dream will reach through you and touch a world that's been waiting for someone who dared to believe it was worth it.